in a body there are different kind of cells. These different kind of cells perform different functions. To perform different functions in our body, these cells need to communicate with each other. In today's lecture, we are going to know how these cells communicate with each other. So, this communication between the cells are done by the signaling pathways. Signaling pathways are of two types. One is intracellular signaling pathway and the other one is extracellular signaling pathway. Let's talk about intracellular signaling pathway first of all. This is the intracellular signaling pathway. What happens in intracellular signaling pathway is that in the figure we can see that there is a plasma membrane of the cell. In this plasma membrane, a receptor protein is embedded. An extracellular signal molecule came from outside and bind with this receptor protein. As this receptor protein and signal molecule complex will form, it can activate another protein which is present inside the cytosol or inside the cell. This protein will activate another one and that protein will activate another protein and a cascade of signaling pathway is followed until the effector proteins are activated. Effector proteins can alter behavior of the cells. Like for example, the metabolic enzyme, which is an effector protein here, can alter metabolism. Gene regulatory protein can alter gene expressions, and the cytoskeletal protein can alter shape and movement of the cell. So now this is nothing different from the previous slide. Here just we are talking about the receptors, the different location of the receptors. Like in first image there is cell surface receptors. In this, the receptor is present on the surface of the cell, and the signaling molecule which bind to these receptors are hydrophilic in nature. Due to hydrophilic nature, they are unable to cross the target cell's plasma membrane directly. Instead of that, they bind to cell surface receptor, which in turn generates signals inside the target cell. In the next image, we can see intracellular receptors. The receptors are not found on the surface of the cell but are present in the cytosol or in the nucleus. So the signaling molecule must be hydrophobic in nature and nearly insoluble in aqueous solution. Therefore, they can enter the cell and bind either to the receptor present on the cytosol or present in the nucleus according to the cell and its function. Regardless of the nature of the signal, the target cell responds by means of a receptor protein which specifically binds the signal molecule and initiate a response. For a specific receptor, there is a target there is a target signal molecule, specific signal molecule. Okay, then come to intercellular signaling. If we are going to talk about intercellular signaling molecule, or I can say extracellular, but the better term is intercellular signaling molecule. So there are four types of intercellular signaling molecules. But first of all, we have to know what is intercellular signaling molecule. Intercellular signaling molecule is the signaling which takes place between different cells. There are four types: contact dependent, paracrine, synaptic and endocrine. First of all, if we are going to talk about contact dependent, in contact dependent signaling, the signaling cell and the target cell are in direct contact to each other. So they can turn on signaling. Then the paracrine. In the paracrine, the signals are released into the extracellular space by one cell and act locally on the neighboring cells. So this is the paracrine signaling pathway. In synaptic signaling pathway, first of all, we have to know that synaptic signaling pathway can be seen in neurons. Uh, the axon of one neuron and the cytone of another neuron, in between that there is a space, that is synapse. There a neurotransmitter is released as signaling pathway, and the receptor present on the cytone will get these signaling molecules and further turn on the signaling pathways. In endocrine signaling pathway, here the hormones are secreted by the cell, and these hormones are secreted where? In the bloodstream. These are distributed there. From the bloodstream, these are going to different cells. Different cells receptor will recept these signal molecules when they need them, or according to the function and the need of the body. So these are the signaling pathways we study about that.